We have to care about the agents.
Intention, consistency, authenticity.
But we are back.
We are back.
We are back. Your wife keeps texting me about a schedule. We are back. I'm here with you-know-who, DJ Delasala and Brittany Nolan, our broker. DJ, also our broker too, but mostly team lead and making sure that this place runs, and has longevity in it. So we just returned from Dallas. That was sick.
So sick.
That was wild. I just posted on my own Facebook the podcast because hearing people talk about you guys and our team like we're the actual 98 Yankees. Like they literally look up to us. And I didn't realize this because it's you guys normally go and you do your thing, whatever. But like I was just there like, this is crazy.
It's crazy.
It's literally bananas. And even people who weren't even a part of the organization were using us to showcase numbers and statistics of like, hey, this is a benchmark of what an agent should be doing. They're like not even a part of this organization, just a completely separate speaker. Right. I thought was wild. I even sent it to the group. I'm like, guys, they're literally talking about you guys, and it's not DJ&Lindsey. It's just other people, which I thought was crazy. And I think that speaks volumes to what you run this place day to day, and then what you make sure, big picture wise, that this company has a future. I think is wild. How did we fall into this dynamic?
Well,
how did you be like, okay, Brittany's the person I'm going to step back and leave to?
Well, I spoke about this a lot on stage and when I was talking with people. It's always been, the foundation's always been consistency.
Love it.
And when you talk about consistency, we talk about like having a routine, having a schedule, prospecting. We're in real estate, so we're prospecting, showing homes, being there for consumers when and where they need us to be. And obviously with the progression of Brittany being our first agent when we started the team, there's not a harder worker, more consistent person than she was. Cared about the consumer, cared about making sure that every day she showed up, she was prepared, willing, able to absolutely crush the day. Mm-hmm. And that just, kept flowering. And
I think a proudness of representing the brand too. I think obviously like having a connection to you and Lindsey helped too. But I think once you realize you're like, I love what I do, I'm really good at what I do, what's the next step? And it's helping other people find that same passion you probably have.
Yeah, I mean, you can just recreate the same thing over and over again. If I can do it, anyone can do it. But you have to find, you have to figure out what worked. It took a long time to figure out what works. We figured out a lot of things that don't work too. And
we're always trying different things. And we'll always be beta testing and pivoting. And I love that about Brittany and you even, Todd. I mean, it's like, all right, hey, we're doing this marketing and we're doing all of this stuff, but hey, this is happening right now. We need to shift. I mean, even
sure.
Facebook's like, all right, we're all in on video again. All right, so now all the algorithms and they're changing, Google's changing, all of these things. So I think with any business, you need to be adaptive. Mm-hmm. But I think I don't want to say the word everyone. I think the majority of us as humans struggle with consistency the most. Mm-hmm. And
what do you think makes, because here's a big thing that we kept seeing is everybody needs to have a big why. And I think somebody pulled Lindsey aside because she spoke on stage, and it's something that also resonates with you, is that she doesn't really have a big why. She just loves the work. She loves what she does, and you don't either, which is funny because you're insanely successful. And I think people are like, I need to have a why, And it's like, what is your why that's not your why, if that makes sense? Like, why do you do it?
Just
you love
being
helping?
Successful. Like, why? I don't know. I think people think a big why would be like kids or houses to buy or something, but it's all relative to just being happy and what makes you happy and whatever that just kind of means to you. So yeah, I never really had a big why. I still don't. I mean, I have reasons why I show up every day and reasons why I work, but ultimately I don't think there's one thing that drives everyone. Sure. I think it's just being around successful people. To me, I was always an athlete, so I needed to be around other people that were driving me and very successful around me. I didn't plan on a team to sit on the bench. Right. So, that's kind of my big why of surrounding myself with other people that I admire and kind of create.
Yeah, I think that's the environment too that the both of you have created here is a winning environment, but somewhere where someone's going to be seen, heard, and understood. Like, okay, someone might have a really big why, and it's like, okay, well, if you're doing these things, you're not going to fuel you. Like your why is only going to sit there and it's never really going to be accomplished, right? You're never really going to hit a goal or whatever it is. So I think that's really interesting that you don't really have a big why, but still are just as successful as somebody who might have 10 really big whys, i.e. you and your son,
and
right?
Everyone's always like, ties that to even money. And I think that's the stupidest thing that you could ever do. Or like, oh, I need to be at this place in the MLS. Like, everyone's like, oh, you do this, great. We're number one. We sold 3,000 houses, $1 billion. Like our trophy's pretty cool, isn't it? Yeah. We don't have one, right? It's nothing. It's not like the money that came from that. All right. It was like, all right, we did it. It was a goal that not a lot of people have ever achieved. But now it's like, okay, how do we do 2 billion and 3 billion? But it's not for the accolades or anything that comes with that. It's like, all right, that's going to cause me to level up, Brittany to level up, leadership to level up our marketing. So that is like a fire that I get to wake up with every day. Is like, okay, it's not about a certain number, but it's just like, okay, that's just a benchmark for where I want to get to of this mountain that's probably never going to end of like, I know
success.
We heard the guy talk about Mount Everest there. That was insane. I'm going to try to
Chris,
get him on
awesome. Yeah, that was awesome. But I think another thing is, everybody can talk about the system you use, the process, your day-to-day, whatever. Did you always have the same mindset that he did, or did you always have the same mindset you have now? Or at some point it clicked, you're like, okay, it's not like you can throw money at anything. It's not until I change my mindset to get my mind right to say, okay, because we spoke yesterday about choice management, time management, things like that. Did you have to stop and shift and be like, okay, this is best use of like how I'm going to get to where I'm going? Or you're just like, I'm hearing all these things. I see, so-and-so's doing this, so-and-so's doing this, so-and-so's doing this. Like, we got to do it all. Or you're like, no, I need to shift. This is how I need to get our mind right so that I can transfer that to you. Or did you guys always just have the same mindset?
I think it's an evolving thing. And like, we always had these different benchmarks when we,
when we first started, we all had totally different. Like, you were negotiating everything. Lindsay's writing all the contracts. I was showing everything.
I think we had a goal of like trying to get to 5 million or like get 10 listings or like, so the benchmarks are always evolving and always changing.
Awesome.
And, a lot of people, fortunately and unfortunately, as you grow, whether it's business, personal life, or anything like that, your circles change. But sometimes, like when you look at us and our longevity that we've had, the circle doesn't need to change. However, we need to change personally to keep elevating each other. Otherwise, Brittany's going to wake up and be like, I feel stagnant, I'm bored. Like, this is like, what are we doing here? Same with all of us. So I guess my job has always been to keep the next benchmark and where it's going to go. And sometimes it's absolutely like bonkers crazy, but it's nothing is unachievable.
Right.
I know that sounds so cliche, like have these big visions and dreams, but
if you have them too, like, yes, you should have a 5, 10, 20-year plan, but you need to have those micro goals, which you're huge on, especially talking to these agents. What do you think some of the biggest challenges are when it comes to an agent's day-to-day situation of actually reaching micro goals and completing them? What do you think is like a huge challenge right now that you see a lot of?
They don't set them. A lot of them are just like, I want to make 6 figures. Great. How do we, every single day, how do we work towards that?
That's a big thing.
And they don't actually like break it down and understand how to actually get there.
What's the best advice you could give to somebody out in the real estate sphere who's not involved with us, who needs the very first step of turning their life around or being successful in this business from, let's move past the COVID market, actual real estate market? What's the first thing you would tell an agent? Be like, hey, this is the first thing I would do if you're not doing this. And it doesn't need to be leads. It doesn't need to be this. It could be like changing your mindset.
I said it this morning, and I was like, look, I think the first thing you ask yourself, do you love real estate? Yeah. Do you love showing homes? Do you like showing up? Do you have the passion? Because if you don't have the passion and you're doing this just to make money, there's so many other things you can do to make money. Yeah. It's too hard. Yeah. And you're going to feel like, everyone talks about burnout or whatever I'm trying to do. Everyone's trying to work for this like ultimate goal of like just, sitting around and collecting mailbox money, like as if that's going to be super fun and fulfilling to them.
Right.
But I think like getting that passion, and once you have that passion, then everything else becomes easy. And then starting with benchmarks that are actually attainable and achievable. I said, it wasn't like I didn't have the goal, a 5-year, 10-year goal of $2 billion. I didn't, I always wanted to do, more than I did last year, and we've always been able to double our business. Obviously, we did $1 billion from 864 transactions to 3,000. That was a huge jump. So. Right. Going to 6,000 this year, we're definitely tweaking some things and getting a level of where we want to be. But I do think in the next 2 to 3 years, I don't know when we'll hit the 2 billion. I know we will, but I know the ride along the way right now and the people that we're working with is going to be fun. I know it's going to be
super
great.
exciting. Yeah.
Well, I think another big thing agents don't really recognize at first is that they don't need to do it alone, nor should they. Like, you should find support of either a brokerage or a friend or even your family, like someone that's in it with you completely, because we all think that, well, I'm a single agent, I'm going to do this by myself. No, you're not.
Yeah,
You're not going
for
to
real.
do, even if you sell 5 homes a year, which is, I guess, the average, you know, you're still not going to do it alone. So, like, right away, start identifying who can kind of hold you accountable, and vice versa, wherever that may be.
And
like,
understanding too, if you're getting good advice, there's a lot of shit advice out there. There are a lot of gurus that are telling you don't need to make phone calls, that you don't need to do that. You know, I would argue that your only job as a real estate agent is probably talk to people about selling and buying and showing real estate. So like this like stigma with like working in real estate, and I think you can find anybody to justify anything, right? I think
Right.
this is why
Big time.
there's a lawyer on each side when you're in a courtroom. Anybody can argue any case for the most part, right? I think finding your tribe of people and the community that you want that have the same vision and goals that you do, and know that if that tribe is always evolving and innovating and always is going to keep pushing you to the next level, and it could start at 10 homes, could start at 20 homes, but then what happens at 40 homes, 75 homes, 100 homes? What's next for me? And I get this a lot, and I just got it 5 minutes ago. There's always something else. Okay, you want to grow, you want to be a leader, you want to move to another market, there's just,
Right.
who knows? But I
Yeah.
can't sit here today and say, here, Todd, this is what it looks like for you.
For sure.
Like, oh, we're going to start this media company, we're going to bring it on, we're not going to be Vanderchuck Media overnight, but we're going to bring on these businesses, we're going to do this, we're going to do it very small.
Hit our benchmarks and goals, making sure that things are moving smoothly.
That's
right?
it.
I mean, because if you get in too deep, that's when you find yourself. I mean, I know for me, like, you get in too deep and there's just so much happening. It's like, where do you even start?
Right.
And I think that's the biggest problem for a lot of people now, because the market's changing. You can't just stick a sign in your yard. We have a lot of these new agents that come on, that we saw. We're like, oh yeah, they sold one house and now they're not in real estate anymore because they just weren't built for it. You're big on James Clear and Atomic Habits.
yeah.
So what would you say would be a micro habit that you can start, anybody can start every single day by doing? It could be the silliest thing. Could be making your bed, right? What's something that you did that you thought was, maybe looking back, was so silly that you're like, that probably is one of those things that like made its way into like a habit that like...
Well, I mean, one thing I still do, and it kind of drives you nuts, is like I get to the office every day between 8 and 8:15, and I don't have, otherwise it was like, get there at 8 o'clock, and God forbid it's 8:02, and I start my morning like crap. So I do that every morning, but my mornings are very much like my mornings. I don't even talk to poor Cabe. Like, if we wake up together, I'm like, you go there, I go here. Like, hey, but my mornings are like a big, if you don't have some type of routine in the morning, whatever it is, and some people think it has to be this grand thing of like, I'm going to work out, I'm going to do this. Like, no, it doesn't. I wake up, I don't look at my husband, and I drink a cup of coffee by myself. Like,
Right.
that's
your routine.
My big thing that
and-
makes me walk in this door and want to keep showing up.
And a lot of people sometimes will go on like social media the first thing you do in the morning. Sometimes that might be negative. Do you really want that first thing to be negative that
For
you're
sure.
going to see? That could set the tone of what your day is going to look like. Like, I think a lot of people say, and nothing wrong with people that wake up super early.
Yeah.
But even for me, I tried to wake up at 5 a.m. for a really long time. And I would find by 3 p.m., 3:30, I was like very tired. I was
You
strained.
need a
I
nap.
wasn't the same person. And
Yeah.
I'm energy driven, and I'm like going.
Yeah.
So I found that 6 a.m. worked really well for me.
Awesome.
And
6 is
sometimes I can tell you, where I'm not consistent is like sometimes I'll work out in the morning. I feel the best. I'm like, why don't I work out every morning? But I definitely work out, and I just have those. But I agree with her. Having your morning, no matter what, I wake up at 6, whether I work out or I don't. I always wanted to get to the office. I always want to have a clear path for my day, and I just wanted to make sure I made the best
But
of
it's
it.
like a consistent morning.
Yeah.
Like, waking
Right.
up is one thing, but like, what else are you doing with your time? And are you doing
sure.
that every single day to kind of...
Yeah,
make it.
but that's, I think, is the point. Is a lot of people, they're like, okay, I need to start somewhere, and they get lost in like, okay, the way I start is spending money in the best place it's supposed to go. It's like, literally structure your morning. You will probably feel so much better and feel so much more aligned to like, okay, this is actually where I need to go next.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times people just hear people doing things. I mean, we're those people, right? I went through a couple events, and everybody looks at us as the benchmark. That's great. That's flattering. But at the same time, now we're held to such a high standard everybody else is looking at, and now we need to keep setting the bar higher. People don't know how to set the bar for themselves, and sometimes aren't really realistic with themselves.
You set realistic goals. Like, it's okay.
You need help with that, right? You have to lean on other people to help you come up with those goals or what that means to you. Because we have a lot of people that come in and they're like, I want to make 6 figures. Why? What's the purpose? And have you talked to your family or, the people that really support you to figure out why you're doing those things?
But even that, like, they might, a lot of people, like, throughout life will try to keep you in the same circle. And when I talk about circles, like, you might go to them and be like, hey, I'm actually on my way to make 6 figures. Your friend, your family. I hate to say this. Sometimes your family might even be like, well, why are you working that hard? You don't need all that stuff. You can have us to be happy. So there's always this level of like things that there might be people in your life that might have different benchmarks for themselves that, sometimes will justify not setting those goals for ourselves because of fear of that we might get out of that realm of certainty that we live in.
Right.
And I think it's, it's a scary place in the world where, if you're ambitious and you want to do things, I hear people all the time, like, I really want to get into, I want to list a lot of properties. Well, secret is all of us want to list a lot of properties. There's no secret out there. But it starts somewhere like, oh, I want to be a listing agent. Oh, I don't really need leads. Oh, I don't need this. I don't what is that benchmark? What are you really trying to do?
Right.
I mean, at the end of the day, a family and a home for me, whether it's I sold it to them or they bought through me, that's a win-win. That's why I got into this business. I got into the business of transacting homes. So I don't set these unnecessary, expectations that I want to be this listing agent because this is what I was told I needed to do.
Right.
Like, just be like, I want to sell 3 homes in a quarter. Start
help
there.
3 families.
And then if you get there, then up the benchmark.
Right, exactly. Because the reason I asked this is because the real estate market's going through this huge weird shift now because we went through like this explosive shift, and we really don't seem to be seeing, like, our agents are still moving on. And I think the point I'm trying to arrive at is because I want to talk about the current status of the market, but our agents, because they're not setting goals based on the market, they're setting goals based on whatever they need and themselves, and they're building routines based on that. That's why they're successful. It's coming from the both of you, coming from Brett, Travis, right? It's coming from the top. And I think I'm trying to just see if there's a way for listeners to also be like, how can I start there? So let's move into the market and find out what we can draw some similarities. So current status of the market, we are post-COVID pricing. It has definitely cooled off when it comes to this absolute bonanza of like, I have a house and there's 90 people running to it. What's going to be the thing that's going to live out from listing a home? What's the number one thing that you need to do right for listing a home that anybody can do?
Setting the expectations up front right now and understanding.
Are big
Love that
right now.
And I think, again, going back to, it's experience. If you're an experienced listing agent going in there right now, trust me, everyone wants to fish for the highest price and doing all of these things, but I think we're doing almost a disservice of listing these properties at some of these thresholds that were maybe unrealistic, and who knows, you may have got lucky last year, and gotten that price. However, I think moving forward, setting the expectations with your customer that it will be, it's going to be a little bit longer of a process. I've been licensed since 2006. We used to take 1-year listing agreements. So, like, I'd be like 9 months in, being like, hey, John, it's still...
Can you imagine having a listing for 9 months?
Long time.
Like, everyone, all the agents in the office are like, I've had this listing 9 days and it's not selling. What do I do?
I'm like, hold on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So expectations is a huge one, and that's for yourself too. And don't beat yourself up. I think the sales cycle right now is going to get longer, buying and selling. So understanding the expectations for yourself, you're going to have to nurture better. You're going to have better conversations. You're going to have better, an idea where you want to go and what the customer ultimately wants to do.
Yeah. I mean, that goes into relationships too. Setting the expectations builds that bigger relationship. A lot of them before couldn't build a relationship. Beginning of COVID, you saw the person one time, one home, wrote the offer, got it, saw them again in 30 days for an hour closing. Like, you didn't have a relationship. So now it's really, really important to actually build a relationship. You might show them 15 homes. Someone yesterday was saying they showed them 15 homes already in the past 2 weeks. I'm like, yeah, it's just the relationship is back to where, when we created the team, where you need to be and where you need to actually be really good.
Right. People skills, understanding how to get your customer to trust you.
Know, and trust. Yes.
And also, too, if you're out there listening and you're in the real estate market, whether you're buying, selling, or you're an agent, like, you have to understand your local market. Like there's all of these headlines that are basically just throwing it out there, and it's talking about the U.S. as a whole. I can tell you, I am so bullish on the North Florida, South Florida. I'm bullish in Florida in general.
Yeah.
We have so many people coming here for all of our great weather. We have a lot of jobs moving here. We're on the upswing, right?
Big time.
And understanding the local landscape better and more in tune than anyone else, I think is going to be a separation factor that's going to be huge over it. But I can tell you right now, I don't think we're going to see interest rates in the 10s. I don't think most people even understand where the interest rates are now. I mean, I think they're at like 4 or 5, I think right now. Yeah. I think they will go up if they go to 5.5. There's different products out there that won't feel as locked in. I know Fannie and Freddie Mac just said that next year they're projecting rates to come back down. Does that mean you shouldn't buy right now? I don't think so. If you want to be somewhere, there's adjustable rate mortgages. There's refinance options down the road. So me personally, I'm buying in this market. I think it's a great market. I think the appreciation of Florida long term is going to be insane.
Yeah, I think that's a good point because we did a little fun thing in here about kind of game day press conference thing, and the agents that we interviewed, we were talking about market conditions and all this and interest rates and that. All of them said that they're still buying homes. They personally in their own portfolio are still buying homes, and I'm like, why? And they're like, there's really no bad time to buy because it depends on what your goal is. So the two that we heard from were always buying long term, right? They're like, so whether I pay this now or I pay a little bit more later, I'm buying for long term. I'm buying for 20 years.
They're
from
like
now.
Retirement plan.
Right, exactly. So it really depends on what you want. If it's the house you're looking to live in with your family, what does that look like when it comes to buying? Is that something that you really need to be bullish on right now? If it's your first time home buying, who is that person, and why is it important to know who you're working with to make sure that you're not overpaying, getting smoked? What would be your advice to somebody?
My advice to anybody that's trying to buy a home and they want to get their family in an environment that they want to be in, life's short. I mean, what are you waiting on? Are you really waiting to get in that school district where your kids are going to grow up, their friends, family, wherever it's going to be? Who knows what next year, 2 years, 3 years happens. Only thing you're buying right now is the payment of a home. And if that's something you're comfortable with and you're betting on yourself, real estate is, you only lose money if you sell it. I know that's so cliche, but really I think the fundamental of owning a home is celebrating Christmas, Thanksgiving, all of those great memories that we create in that. And if you're able to start that now, I mean, I'm getting, not sentimental or anything, but my son's a junior in high school. I mean, he's got 2 summers left and he goes to college. I mean, I was like, dang, I wish I would have had, more time in my house prior to that. It's just so I guess it's different for everybody. And
no, but that makes a whole lot of sense, is that it's going to depend on your goals. And again, it's you need to buy based on where you're at, right? I think people are like, oh man, we can't buy a house now because the market's if you need a house, you will buy a house.
Buy a house.
I feel like people are so scared now because they'll read a headline that says, your roof will explode if your interest rate's over this. And it's so many, the disinformation is crazy. But I think you brought up a good point. You even brought it up this morning in the Fireside Chats, was that I would almost say that a majority of the consumers aren't even aware of what the physical number of the interest rate is. They just know that it's either high or low.
Right.
And they don't even know why.
I bought in 2013. When I bought Ocean Woods, it was 4.35 interest rate.
Yeah.
I think we're above that a little bit, but that was 2013. I mean, but I was I met my best friends that live next door. I'm like, if I would have ever thought about an interest rate back then, my life would be so much different than it was now. And that's why I'm trying to say, life is short. Do what you want to do. It's okay to be, especially with your life. I feel like in a home and your family, it's the most thing you should probably be most selfish about and make that happen.
Right.
Not necessarily, but don't make yourself uncomfortable doing it. Have the right savings plan in place, security of job. I think if you're able to pull it off, don't let any media or anything scare you out of it.
That's from the consumer standpoint. From an agent standpoint, how do you basically deliver that same message to somebody? Is it through honesty? Is it through listening? Is it through knowing your market?
You have to identify their motivation. Are they moving because the kids need to be in that school zone? Nothing should get in that way of that. If it's an extra $20 a month because of the rates, then that should not stop you from putting your kid in a good school zone. So it's all, you have to get into their motivation.
Right.
And if you don't know that, then you're kind of slacking as an agent.
In South Florida, we just sold Rob a house, and his daughters are in like softball players, and they were moving from Jersey based on the softball program and college offers that they're getting.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
important to him.
Nobody's
Big
thinking
deal.
about interest rates at
Right,
that point.
that's important to him.
But he's
Yeah.
also like, I'm not going to pay rent. He actually bought a townhome to live in while his house was getting built. Sold the townhome, made some money. Now he bought his house. So I think to get across to everybody is like honesty. I've told people all the time not to buy a house. Like, wait,
Right.
we're stretching too thin. We're doing this. Like, I think patience is okay if you're actually being patient for the right thing. If you're being patient to wait on interest rates or pricing or anything like that, to me is irrelevant, because I think the benchmark for appraisals right now in most neighborhoods have been set, and I think they'll be stable for a long time. I could be wrong, but I that's my opinion. So rates will fluctuate, but life doesn't. So if you're comfortable in this window of 4.5% to 5.5% and your payment is okay, have that window open right now, and you shouldn't even think twice about it.
Should really only ever be waiting for it to be financially comfortable, whatever that means, right? You want to wait for that to move into the right school and all that stuff. You don't need to be uncomfortable, but the motivation otherwise, that conversation, the agents have to dig in.
Yeah, right. Like, I'm a real estate investor. I have a buy box of things that I look for. Everyone's like, oh, all this inventory. I like sit in front of I like get all of these updates, and every time I get an update on my phone, I'm like, finally I found
I
something.
know you
to
sent
buy.
me a terrible one.
I know.
You're like, this is the Cave and Brittany house. I'm like, that is the worst investment
it
ever.
came up 15 seconds before. Like, how did you see this fast? Like, I literally all my buy box, I get notifications for instantly. Like, I'm like obsessed. I'm trying to, add to our portfolio. I love buying real estate, but it's like, have your buy box, whether you're an investor, whether you're buying your first home. Buy box is just what your parameters are. Like, all right, I need it to be this price range, I need it to be in this area, and this amount of bedrooms.
Right.
Super simple. So
yeah, no, I think that's super important, because a lot of people try and make decisions based off of other information that they might not even understand.
Well, it goes back to the justification of your circle. I guarantee you could talk to 5 different people, you get 5 different opinions on if you should or buy a house.
Yeah.
I know parents will give you a different expectation of because they're always going to me. I'm a parent. I'm always going to give the most cautious advice to my kids. For
sure.
But I also know that taking risk will also give you a chance to jump way ahead in the future. So there's like this big balance of like take some advice from a lot of different people. Make your own judgment. If you feel comfortable and you're stable in your position, bet on yourself and go for it.
Awesome. Let's close out. We have a couple of minutes left, but I want to close out with current events, what we're doing as a team, as a company, etc. So we're September 1st, Jag season coming up. We're going to be tailgating massively.
Yes.
We've built that out.
Come out.
We've been super passionate
Lot
about
J.
it. We got some promotional stuff happening. What are some exciting things that you can see happening? Obviously, we started doing this running situation. We're paying the bib fee of some people.
Yeah.
That's
Doing
really
some
cool.
5Ks.
Pink up the pace. Talk a little bit about that. Yeah. Talk a little about. Well, just talk about like why we're doing this. We're building
I mean,
camaraderie as a
we're
community.
always trying to do things together as a community. A lot of the agents were doing 5Ks anyways, so we're like, hey, if you actually stand up and show up and run the race,
We'll reimburse
DJ
you.
and Lindsey are going to personally reimburse you. Health's super important, but also, the culture we have of everyone getting together outside of the office is a big deal.
It's big, yeah.
But yeah, everyone's super into being fit right now.
Yeah, I mean, it is. Well, it was COVID. Everybody was like, I got to have my at-home gym, and then nobody used it. Now they're like, kind of have,
my gosh.
I'm calling it COVID weight, like
They're
the
like
freshman 15 people used to
doing
get
all
in college.
kinds of things. Casey's in like a walking competition. She's
I
like
saw
making
she
money.
is laughing. She
That's
is
so
literally
awesome.
laughing.
Oh my
Yeah.
God, I love that. So yeah, small things like that. I mean, the Christmas party, obviously everyone's
Yeah, the Christmas party we've
Stoked
already heard
for.
buzz about. That's
Yeah.
awesome. That's happening obviously first
I'm
week in
scared.
December. No, that's
It's
great.
scary.
But
No, I think a lot of the things that are going in. I mean, this is my favorite time of year. I think that there's, we also have this program with our agents right now where we're donating to different charities of their
Yes.
choice, from
Yes,
matching
yes,
commissions,
yes.
getting out there in the community. With this, we've been just on such a high trajectory. It's just hard to be everywhere.
Big
You
time.
know,
Yeah.
I love that. Brittany's getting out in the agent community, getting out there.
Yep.
We're doing all of these things. So what I'm looking forward is just like getting out there more, doing more. Our South Florida office is we have some
that's
great.
that's
oh
really
my gosh, we
rolling.
have such good agents down there.
Yeah.
There's going to be, I think next year there's going to be some expansion with us throughout some certain places in North Florida, South Florida, and everywhere. So I'm excited about the future of real estate. We're growing. I'm loving to be a part of this. And
yeah, we're super bullish when it comes to providing opportunity, expanding, right? If there are agents elsewhere, especially coming back from Dallas, we met agents from all over the state where we're just not in that market. So unfortunately, we can't really help. But we're trying to figure out best ways we can help these people, whether it comes to referral base, etc.
Like, definitely follow us. Always reach out. I know we're doing. Lindsey and I are about to do a
big
chat.
fireside chat on
Ask
Zoom.
us anything. So they're just because we're not in your market now, or we may never be there in the future. Maybe we will. Maybe we won't. We want to grow that relationship with everybody in the industry, and whether you're here in North Florida, South Florida, Florida, Texas, Alaska, Alabama, it doesn't matter. I want to connect with you. I want to share our insights and maybe help you grow your business.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you, the both of you. Quick sign off. Couple things we got. This podcast sponsored by Audible. Audible is a great way to listen to books. If you don't have time to read them because you're on showings, you can get our deal at Audible at audible.com/DJ&Lindsey. Secondly, there is fireside chat happening with him and Lindsey. So if you are not on our email list, sign up to our email list. You can fill it out. We'll put a link below too, so that we know exactly what state you're in, how long you've been licensed, so we can kind of like put you in a little bit of a box, make sure we get to your questions properly. And then also find us at our tailgates. We got Jags coming up. We doing our first home game is September 18th. That's going to be awesome. So
division game against the Colts. We're gonna whoop that butt.
Yeah, exactly. So find us social media. You can always find us at DJ&Lindsey everywhere, but we're going to be posting heavily on where we are tailgating. Please come and find us. We got a lot of games, a lot of fun happening, cornhole, stuff like that. And come meet, these guys.
We'll be there.
It's great.
We'll be there.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Appreciate you.
Wee.